The Teacher's Heart, Chapter 1. A Man of Simple Means. In a small town, there lived a man named Samuel. He was a teacher at the local high school, known throughout the town not for his wealth or status, but for his kindness and unwavering dedication to his students. Samuel taught English and literature, subjects that he was passionate about. But what made him truly special wasn't his subject knowledge. It was his heart. Samuel was not a rich man. His home was modest, and he drove an old car that often made strange noises. But he didn't mind. He had learned long ago that happiness didn't come from money or material possessions. His true joy came from seeing his students grow and succeed. He had a gift for recognizing the potential in his students, even when they couldn't see it in themselves. Every day, Samuel would arrive early at school, greeting the students with a smile and a few words of encouragement. He would stay late after school, helping those who needed extra assistance with their studies. His classroom was a safe space where students knew they could be themselves without fear of judgment. His love for teaching was evident in everything he did. He never asked for anything in return. In fact, Samuel often used his own money to buy books or supplies for his students, knowing that many of them came from families that couldn't afford extra educational resource. But he didn't mind. To him, it was worth every penny. Chapter 2. The Offer. One day, as Samuel was leaving school, he was approached by a man named David. David was a well-dressed businessman who had recently moved to the town. He had heard of Samuel's reputation as an exceptional teacher, and after meeting him, he was impressed not only by his teaching skills, but by his genuine care for his students. "Mr. Samuel, it's a pleasure to meet you," David said, extending his hand with a confident smile. "I've heard so much about you. I'm new to town, but it's clear that you are a beloved teacher here." Samuel shook his hand politely, though he was a little surprised by the compliment. "Thank you, Mr. David. I do my best. It's not always easy, but it's worth it when you see your students succeed." David nodded, clearly impressed. "I can tell you're a man who truly cares about others. In fact, that's why I wanted to talk to you. I have a business proposal that might interest you." Samuel raised an eyebrow. "A business proposal? I'm afraid I don't quite understand. I'm a teacher, Mr. David. I don't know much about business." David smiled again. "No worries. I'll explain. I know you're passionate about teaching, but I also know that teaching doesn't always pay as much as it should. especially for someone with your dedication. I run a very successful business and I'm looking for someone with your skills, someone who understands people and has a genuine desire to help others. Samuel was confused but curious. I'm listening. David continued. The position I'm offering isn't in teaching, but it pays very well. It's a management position where you would oversee a team and help people develop their skills, much like you do with your students. You would earn a much higher salary than you do as a teacher, and you'd have the chance to grow in the company. I believe it would be a great opportunity for you. Samuel was taken aback. But I love teaching. I couldn't leave my students behind. David nodded sympathetically. I understand that, but think of it this way. You could make more money in a few years than you've made in your entire career as a teacher. You could support your family better, live more comfortably, and perhaps even make a bigger impact in the world. With your skills, you'd be great at this job. Samuel was silent for a moment. The offer was tempting. The extra money could ease some of his financial struggles, and it could give him the freedom to do more for his students, maybe even create scholarships or fund educational programs. But his heart ached at the thought of leaving the classroom. David could see the conflict on Samuel's face and leaned in a little closer. Think about it, Mr. Samuel. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. You could have it all: financial security and the ability to make a bigger difference. I'm sure your students would understand. Chapter 3: The Struggle Within. For the next few days, Samuel couldn't stop thinking about David's offer. The money would solve a lot of his problems. He could fix his old car, move to a bigger house, and perhaps even go on a vacation for the first time in years. He could live the kind of life that he had only dreamed of. But every time Samuel thought about it, he felt a pang of guilt. His heart belonged to his students. He had built a life around teaching, and the thought of leaving them behind weighed heavily on his conscience. His students depended on him. They looked up to him for guidance, for encouragement, for the belief that they could achieve their dreams. Could he really walk away from all of that? Samuel spent several sleepless nights wrestling with the decision. On one hand, he could have the financial security he had always wished for. On the other, he had the fulfillment of knowing that he was making a real difference in the lives of young people. The choice was not easy. Finally, Samuel decided to talk to someone about it. He sat down with his best friend Lisa, a fellow teacher at the school. She had known him for years and had always been his sounding board. "I don't know what to do, Lisa," Samuel confessed. I've been offered a job that pays a lot of money. It would solve so many of my problems. But I can't stop thinking about my students. I don't know if I can leave them behind. Lisa looked at him thoughtfully. You're a great teacher, Samuel, and it's clear that you love what you do. But let me ask you this. What's more important to you, money or impact? Samuel looked down at his hands. I know I can make a bigger impact if I take the job. But will I still be happy? Will I still be able to make a difference? Lisa smiled gently. Samuel, the impact you have on your students is priceless. You've shaped so many lives already. Don't let money be the thing that defines you. Follow your heart. If you're meant to stay in the classroom, you will find a way to make it work. Samuel thought about Lisa's words for a long time. He realized that no matter how tempting the offer was, he didn't want to trade his passion for a paycheck. The connection he had with his students was something money could never replace. Chapter 4: A Decision Made. A week later, Samuel called David to let him know his decision. Mr. Samuel, David said when he picked up the phone, have you thought about the offer? Yes, Samuel replied, his voice steady. And after giving it a lot of thought, I've decided that I'm going to stay in teaching. There was a pause on the other end of the line. I understand it's not an easy decision. Samuel smiled softly. I appreciate the offer, David, but teaching is what I love. I can't walk away from that. David sighed, but there was no anger in his voice. I respect that, Samuel. You have a good heart. I wish you the best of luck. As Samuel hung up the phone, he felt a sense of peace wash over him. He knew he had made the right decision. His life wasn't defined by money, but by the difference he made in the lives of others. Chapter 5: A Reward Greater Than Money. The following years were not easy for Samuel. He still lived in his modest home and drove his old car. But something had changed. He had an inner peace that he hadn't had before. His students flourished under his guidance, and he continued to be a positive force in their lives. One day, as he walked into the school, one of his former students, Emma, ran up to him, holding an envelope. Mr. Samuel, she exclaimed, I have something for you. It's a scholarship fund, Emma said. I know you don't like to ask for help, but we all wanted to give back to you. You've done so much for all of us. This is our way of saying thank you. Samuel opened the envelope to find a check for a significant amount of money, enough to make a real difference in his life. Tears welled up in his eyes as he realized that his students, the ones he had poured his heart into, had come together to repay him for all the love and care he had given them over the years. That day, Samuel understood something that he had always known deep down. The rewards of teaching were far greater than any paycheck. The love, the respect, and the impact he had made in his students' lives were treasures that money could never buy. And as he walked through the halls of the school, he knew that he had chosen the right path, one that led to a wealth of happiness not measured by bank accounts, but by the hearts he had touched.